Hello everybody, welcome back to the Stone Dogs 40k. This is our current table setup. This is a 6x4 table. The battle we're playing is a chapter approved 2018 mission. This is called Vital Intelligence. Deployment is Dawn of War, so we'll have one army deployed down one long side up to 12 inches in depth, marked by the red dice there, and then the other army down the other side up to 12 inches in depth. This mission has 5 objective markers, one placed in the centre of the battlefield. These are our custom homemade objective markers. So that is the central marker, and then we've got 4 other markers which are placed on a line that runs from the centre down to each corner. The markers are halfway down that line, so we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 tucked over the back there, and as I say, 5 is the central one. Now the way this works is that players will roll off, or the sides will roll off I should say, and the winner will pick either deployment zone, and obviously a player who did not pick their deployment zone sets up the whole army. Their opponent then deploys, obviously wholly within. Player who finishes setting up first gets to go first, but the opponent can seize as per normal. The mission rules for this are capture the data. So at the start of each battle round, the player who had the first turn rolls a d6. This cannot be re-rolled as it is a mission dice, so you can't re-roll that one. On a 6, all objective markers are active for the round. On any other result, the corresponding objective marker is active for that battle round. At the end of each turn, players will score victory points based on how many objective markers they control. So each marker is worth 1 point, but the active marker is worth 2 points instead. So for example, if we rolled a d6 and we scored a 3, that would mean number 3 is the active one. That's worth 2 points, all the others are worth 1. If we roll a 6, that basically means that all of the markers are active and they're all worth 2 points rather than 1. So that should create some good opportunities for point scoring. That's the table. Just give a little bit of a whiz round. So we've got some of the MDF scenery on here, a couple of units there, and then this is kind of set up to look like almost like a medieval town, building up a collection of these MDF buildings which I think look pretty cool, sort of half timbered look. And then made this up with some of the Games Workshop bits and pieces in terms of the corner pieces, etc. Some of the ammo supply crates. These plants are aquarium plants, so just been buying in sort of a selection of different kind of scaled plants, from these little succulents down here up to the larger kind of broadleaf plants, and then some of these ones which are based on MDF circles, etc, etc. And then again over here, more of the Games Workshop bits and pieces, crates, barrels, ammo dump there, tank traps, etc. And then these resin barricades which again, once they're painted up, look pretty nice. And then we also have got this, which is, you probably may have seen this before. This is a homemade pipe stack. It's actually made from the plastic inserts from till receipt rolls, would you believe? So yeah, that's something that we're going to make more of as time goes on. And then the battle mat, this is a sort of a mouse material kind of battle mat. Again, we've invested in a couple of new ones, so you'll see those over the next few games. So yeah, that's the table. Let's have a look at the armies. Okay, so this is the Chaos Army. This 5-game campaign is called the Flames of Terror. This army is led by Banak Baneblade, who is a Chaos Lord in Terminator armor. There he is. He is carrying the Murder Sword. That's his artifact of chaos. That's a melee weapon, obviously. Strength is +1, -4 AP for 1 damage. His Warlord trait is Exalted Champion, so he gets to add 1 to his attacks characteristic. And the sword, each attack made with the Murder Sword against any character that I have to nominate at the start of the battle. So I have to nominate a character. Any attack made with the Murder Sword against that target causes 1 mortal wound instead of normal damage. So could be quite a nasty piece of kit, that weapon. In his army, he's actually leading a battalion, so his other HQ in the battalion is Engara the Flayer, who's a sorcerer. We'll talk about psychic powers when the game begins, but he's carrying a bolt pistol and a force axe or a power axe, one or the other, I can't remember without looking at his profile. And then, because this is a Khorne army, we've got in the troops section, we've got 2 10-man squads of berserkers. They're both riding in rhinos over the back there. We've also got 30 cultists split into 2 squads, so we've got a 20 squad on the right and a 10 on the left. That's, I think, from one of the Games Workshop sets. That's actually an Imperial pilot, but he's doubling up as a Chaos Champion today. And then over the back there is a squad of 5 Raptors. So that makes up the battalion. And then in the other section over here, this is a Vanguard. In this we've got Godroth the Eviscerator. He's the Chaos Lord on Juggernaut, again, power axe and plasma pistol. Squad of 10 Chaos Space Marines. Now there's a mixture of weapons in there, but we're just running these as bolt gun, bolt pistol, apart from the champion who's got a chain axe. Squad of 5 Terminators, various weapons in there. They've got a homing beacon as well. 2 Hellbrutes and a bike squad over the back there. And then this squad here, which is a squad of berserkers led by an aspiring champion. These guys are called the Desolate Ones. They're mostly armed with chain swords, but there's a few chain axes in there as well, as you can probably see. So it's either chain axe bolt pistol or chain sword bolt pistol. I didn't double up on any of these because, you know, I'm not a kind of a power gamer. I'm not after kind of getting the maximum. I just want these guys to be as cool as possible. So that's the Desolate Ones. So that is the army. And in addition, just so that I don't forget, we've also got some blood letters in this list as well that aren't on the table, obviously, which are part of the demonic ritual. So any character can, at the end of the movement phase, attempt to summon a demonic unit. So that's on a 3d6 roll. So you can get to summon 1 new unit that has a power level equal to or lower than the roll. So it could be either 1 unit of 20 or 2 units of 10, depending on how we get on with that. And they have to be placed anywhere within 12 inches of that character, more than 9 inches from an enemy. Any doubles in the roll cause 1 mortal wound to the character, and any triples cause D3 mortal wounds to the character. So it could have a negative impact, but obviously to get those models on the board will be quite cool at some point. So we'll see how we get on with that. We're also going to try the new, or say new, they're not so new now, the beta bolter drill. So we'll see how we get on with that. And you may know from watching previous games that I've been having some issues with certain rules. So I'm going to try my very best to be more accurate and more on the ball in terms of those ones that I keep forgetting. So things like the smite rule and targeting characters and all those kinds of things that I keep forgetting. I'll try and make sure that I cover those off and get those right this time round. Okay, so that's the Chaos Army. We're just going to have a look at the Space Marines next. Okay, so here's the Space Marine army. Now, Flames of Terror takes place around 30 years before the Vengeance campaign, which was the last 5-game campaign that we played on the channel. So this is before Aldus Priamus was disgraced by being beaten, or I should say by not beating the orcs of Gurgal Wazkil off of the planet of Cataract 4. So this campaign takes place 25-30 years before that. So Aldus Priamus is still in favour, and he's still a battle leader. And there he is. So Aldus is in a battalion. He has Insera, his chaplain, alongside him. And then in the rest of the battalion, there's 2 5-man intercessor squads, Reaver squad, and some sniper scouts. So that makes up the 1st battalion. 2nd battalion, Charos Voltar, Terminator Librarian, alongside him Proxiam Gon, chaplain from the 2nd company. And in there we've got 4 5-man tack squads, Chainsword and Flamer in all of those. 5-man Devastator squad, 3 las cannons, heavy bolter, and then Flamer and Lightning Claw on the sergeant. And then 2 rhinos over the back here. So 10 Space Marines in each rhino. So that's how they roll. And then over this side, Supreme Command, we've got a Primaris Librarian and 2 Primaris Lieutenants, one with a power sword, the other one with a bolt rifle, and then a Vanguard detachment. So a Captain in Gravis armor and 3 Dreadnoughts. This is the first time I've managed to get 3 Dreadnoughts in my Space Marine lists for anything less than 2,200 points. This is 2,116 points. So there you go. Okay, so in terms of warlord traits, Aldus has got Champion of Humanity, so +1 to all hit and wound rolls in the fight phase against characters. Relic is the Burning Blade, that's +2 strength, -5 AP for 1 damage. And Chapter Tactic, as per, these are playing a successor chapter of the White Scars, so +2 to advance moves, and they can still charge in a turn where they fell back. Okay, so that's the Space Marine army. So let's go and have a look at deployment. So deployment is complete. Let's go through the Chaos side first. So we've got a Rhino, Chaos Lord on Juggernaut, and a Hellbrute over on their left flank. The Rhino's got 10 Khorne Berserkers inside. Then there's a squad of 20 cultists, homing beacon there for the Terminators, 10 standard Chaos Space Marines, and then the Desolate ones just in the centre. And then if we come across to the very far side, 10 cultists and the Sorcerer just down in the corner here, and Bikers, Hellbrute, and the other Rhino with 10 Berserkers inside right over on the far side. So that's deployment for the Chaos side. Let's have a look at Space Marines. Yeah, just going back to the Chaos side, obviously the Raptors are in Deep Strike. There's the Terminators, and then the two 10-man squads of Berserkers, which are in the Rhinos. So Space Marines deployment right over on this side. Dreadnought with las cannon and heavy bolter, and then we've got the Gravis the Gravis captain, Primaris librarian, two squads of intercessors with the two lieutenants, Rhino there containing two 10-man tac squads. The snipers are in this building, and Devastators in this building, two more dreadnoughts in the centre, another Rhino, and then the chaplain and librarian over on this side, facing over towards the Chaos units over on the left flank. So that's it for deployment. Let's have a look at first turn and see who gets to win the roll-off. So at the end of deployment, the Chaos side finished setting up first. They had 11 drops onto the board compared to 16 for Space Marines, so they get to go first. However, Space Marines want to try and seize, and they do. So Space Marines turn one. So one last thing before I start, both sides have just used a stratagem. The Space Marine side have paid an additional command point for a relic, which is the Tome of Malkador, which gives +1 psychic power to one psyker. So the librarian, Terminator librarian, has now got Psychic Scourge, as well as Veil of Time, Null Zone and Smite. And on the Chaos side, the command point was spent on the Axe of Blind Fury, which is a melee weapon, and it replaces a power axe. So we've put that on Godros, who is over on this side. So he now carries the Axe of Blind Fury. That's a melee weapon. Strength is +3, AP -3 for D3 damage. However, word of caution, on hit rolls of 1, that weapon hits a friendly unit within 1 inch. So if there's no units within 1 inch, he does no damage, but those ones cannot be re-rolled. So there's a little bit of a payback for the power of that weapon. So we're gonna have to make sure we keep him relatively clear of friendly units. So that's it. Command point wise now, Space Marines are now down to 15, started on 16, and Chaos are down to 8, started on 9. So Space Marines turn 1 coming up in a moment. Right, so it's Space Marine's first turn, so we need to roll to see what the situation is with the objectives. And we've rolled a 2. So 2 is right there. So that's the active objective, worth 2 points. All the others are worth 1 point. Okay, let's get on with movement. Okay, so end of Space Marine's movement. Everything's moved forwards, so standard moves across this side. The Rhino's moved 9 inches instead of 12, just in terms of range over to the far side there with the missile. Dreadnoughts just moved standard Again, standard move here. Heavies haven't moved, neither have the snipers. Everything else has just moved up here to get onto this objective. Dreadnought moved forward on this flank, and then the Reavers at the end of the movement phase have dropped in to the table just here, 9 inches away from the cultists, 9.5 inches away I should say, but within charge range, so they're actually fairly close to the active objective there as well, so potentially look at that when we get to the charge phase. That's it for movement, so it's psychic next. Let's see if we've got anything in range. Okay, so we've had a quick scan through what we can do for psychic. There's actually nothing in range in terms of the standard 18-inch. We looked potentially at doing Might of Heroes from this Primaris Librarian, but to be honest, there's no value in doing that currently because there's not anything that's going to be in combat this turn. So yeah, so not something that we've got an opportunity to do. So we're going to move into the shooting phase for the Space Marines next. Right, so end of the shooting phase. Dreadnought here with las cannon, taking the 3 wins off the Rhino. Did no damage with its heavy bolter. These guys took out a couple of cultists from that unit there, and then bolt rifles from the intercessors took out another 8, so there's another 6, so there's 12 cultists left in that squad. The Stormbolters on these 2 guys managed to shoot through between the buildings, took out 1 of the Chaos Space Marines. This Stormbolter took out 1 of the Berserkers, and then las cannon and heavy Gatling cannon from here took out another 3, so there's 4 gone from that squad. A couple of cultists gone from the squad over the back here, and the Hellbrute is down to 3 wounds due to a shot from the missile on this Rhino. So that's the end of the shooting phase, apart from the Space Marines are going to play a stratagem which is orbital bombardment. So in the shooting phase, no, I can't do that because my Warlord's moved, so we'll have to save that for the next turn. Should have read that first, so unfortunately we can't use that one. We'll have to save that. So the only thing that hasn't shot is the snipers, and they're going to take shots at the enemy Warlord, which is just through the gap in these buildings. So we're going to do that now and see where we end up. So 5 shots hitting on 3s. Oh, that's only 4. Where's my other die gone? That's very strange. Okay, 5 hits. Wounding on 4s. Okay, mortal wound. Normal wound. Okay, 3 wounds, and then the Warlord gets a 3-up save. Ooh. So the Warlord has 5 wounds. He is now down to 2 wounds. Okay, that's the end of Space Marines shooting. So looking at the charge phase next. So the Reavers are going to charge into this squad of cultists. So they are armed with auto guns, which are rapid fire. So they're within range to get 2 shots. So the champion's got a shotgun. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. Sorry, no, it's not. It's 20 because this guy here has got a different weapon also, so he's armed with a heavy stubber. So that's 20 auto gun shots, which are hitting on a 4. Of course, hitting on a 6, not a 4, because it's Overwatch. So 1, 2, 3 hits. So this is a strength 3 weapon, so it's a 5 to wound. 1 wound and a 3-up save. Saved. So they're all good. Now they need a 9. Oh. So that's going to have to be a command point reroll. Oh. So they don't make that charge. That's a shame. Okay, that's the end of the charge phase. So fight phase, we haven't got anything in combat. So morale, there won't be any. That's the end of Space Marines turn number 1. So let's just have a look at the points. So currently we've got a point there and a point there. So 2 points at the end of that turn for the Space Marines. Chaos turn 1 coming up. So end of Chaos movement phase. Rhino, Hellbrute and Chaos Lord on Juggernaut have just moved forwards here. Cultists have moved on to the objective here for 2 points. And these guys have just moved up. And if we look over on this side, the Sorcerer and these Cultists have stayed where they are. Come back to that in a moment. And then these units have all just moved up, just on the right hand side. So back to this unit here, the Sorcerer is going to attempt to perform a demonic ritual. So what that means is we roll 3d6 and we get 10. So that means that I can bring onto the table 20 blood letters, I believe. I'm just going to double check that, but I think that gives me enough for 20. Just bear with me. Yeah, so according to what I've got here, blood letters for 10 is 5 power. So for 20, that's 10 power. So I can bring on 20 blood letters. Now, unfortunately, because I've rolled a double, that means that the character takes 1 mortal wound. So he currently has 4 wounds. He doesn't have a invuln save, so that will take him down to 3 wounds, but 20 blood letters are going to come on within 20 inches of him and more than 9 inches away from an enemy. So I'll get those on the table and then we'll just look at where they are before we move on. Right, so there you go, 20 blood letters now on the table, within 12 inches of the Sorcerer, who's over the back there, and more than 9 inches away from any enemy. Looks pretty terrifying. So that's the end of the Chaos movement phase. Psychic phase is coming up next. So Chaos psychic phase is over. So the Sorcerer attempted to cast Prescience on the Bike Squad, which would have given them +1 to hit rolls until the start of the next psychic phase. He rolled a 3, so command point reroll, rerolled the 1 and got 4 for 6, but this power goes off on a 7. So unfortunately that was a fail. The only other power that the Psyker has apart from Smite is Infernal Gaze, and there's not anything else within range. So that's the end of Chaos Psychic. So we're going to be looking at the shooting phase next. Alright, end of the Chaos shooting phase. So this group of models here has managed to take a wound off the Dreadnought. We've lost a couple of Reavers and 1-on-1 wound through fire from this group of models in the middle. And then over on the far side, the Desolate ones were out of range, so they couldn't shoot, but over this side, Heavy Stubber in that group of cultists and combi bolters on the bikes have managed to take the Rhino here down to 8 from 10 wounds. So that's the end of the shooting phase, and its charges coming up next. So I wanted to leave the cultists in position on this objective to gain the 2 points this turn. So tried charging the Chaos Marines into the Reavers. The Reavers fired Overwatch, scored hits but no wounds. However, that squad failed their charge. And then all the way over here, the Chaos bikes have made it in, suffered no wounds on Overwatch, and then tried to charge the Bloodletters into this Dreadnought. Dreadnought took out one on Overwatch, but then they failed their charge, even with a reroll, so they didn't make it in. So that's it for charges. So it's Chaos fight phase coming up next. So I'm going to start here with the Rhino, and then it'll be the bikes, and then that'll be end of Chaos. Right, so there you go. Rhino's down to 1 wound. So 6 wounds taken off in 1 hit from the Dreadnought, and then over the far side here the bikers have managed to take a wound off of this Rhino. No damage dealt in return. So that is the end of the Chaos fight phase. Just have a quick look at morale, but I don't think there is any, and then we'll move into Space Marines turn number 2. So quick victory point summary for the end of Chaos turn 1. So this one was the active marker for this turn, so worth 2 points. So 2 points for that one. Not close enough to the middle one there. And then 1 point for objective marker 4. So 3 points in total for Chaos. So at the end of turn 1, it's Chaos 3, Space Marines 2. So start of Space Marines turn number 2. Just going to roll for the objective, and we get number 5, which is that one right there. Okay, movement coming up next. End of the Space Marines movement phase. Dreadnought hasn't moved. These Reavers have moved forwards to get into easier charge range. We've got intercessors, etc. that have moved up. The Terminator Captain, Aldous Priamus, hasn't moved, because I must remember that I have a stratagem that he's going to use this turn. Everything else has moved forward, but staying on this objective. Snipers haven't moved. Heavies haven't moved. The Rhino, which has moved forward into the gap between the buildings there, has disgorged its 2 squads of 5 Space Marines, so they are now on objective 5, which is the active objective. These 2 Dreadnoughts have just scooted over to the right slightly, just to be a little bit more difficult to charge in terms of the Bloodletters. And then over here, Librarian and Chaplain have moved around the building to get into charge range of the bikes. And again, this Rhino has disgorged its 2 squads. This squad here just staying on objective number 3 for an additional point. So that's all of movement done. Psychic phase is next. End of Space Marine Psychic. The Librarian over this side cast Smite on the biker squad. The Sorcerer attempted to deny but failed. Caused D3 mortal wounds for 2, so took out 1 biker. And then cast Psychic Scourge on the Bloodletters. Sorcerer couldn't deny that one. Managed to take out 1 Bloodletter from that squad as well. And then over on this flank, the Primaris Librarian cast Smite on the Rhino, which exploded, did 2 mortal wounds to the Dreadnought. The explosion took out 2 of the Berserkers, and then the Primaris Librarian cast Might of Heroes on the Dreadnought again, which went off, so he's now +1 to strength, toughness and attacks, which probably will come in quite handy against these chainsword wielding Berserkers. So that's the end of the psychic phase. Moving into shooting next. So before I forget, start the shooting phase, we're going to use this stratagem for 3 command points. Space Marine Warlord who did not move, that's Aldous Priamus, who's right there. He can conduct an orbital bombardment. So instead of shooting, select a visible point on the battlefield and roll a d6 for every unit within 6 inches of that. Sorry, d6 inches of that point. Subtract 1 from the result if the unit being rolled for is a character. On a 4+, the unit being rolled for suffers d3 mortal wounds. So the point I'm going to pick is this bright red Space Marine, Chaos Space Marine, right in the centre there. So d6 inches from there will give me 4. So 4 inches from that point. So that takes in the the warlord, not the war boss. Takes in these cultists, this unit, and the desolate ones over this side. So d3 mortal wounds per unit, and then obviously there's a +1 modifier on the warlord. So desolate ones, that's 2 Space Marines, 3 cultists, 1, and this guy here, 3. Okay, so that actually potentially will take out the warlord. I know he's got an invuln save, so we'll deal with that in a moment. So we need to take out 2 of these guys. 1, 2, 3 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, and 1 cultist. 1. Okay, let's have a look at the warlord. Yeah, so he has a 4-up invuln save. Okay, he actually saves 2, so he only loses 1 wound. So he's on his last wound. Right, okay, so let's get into shooting proper for Space Marines. So end of the shooting phase. Chaplain fired his bolt pistol at the Hellbrute, missed. Librarian fired his Stormbolter over into the Bloodletters, made a casualty over there. Bolter fire from these 3 Space Marines took out another couple of Bloodletters, and then heavy onslaught Gatling cannon from this dreadnought took out a few more. So that unit now is down to 8 from about 18, I believe. So quite heavily depleted. Bolter fire from this unit here took out another few of the desolate ones. Some Stormbolter fire from the Rhino took out a cultist or 2, I believe. Big shot of the turn was snipers who managed to take out the warlord, so that's slay the warlord for Space Marines. They actually did 3 wounds, 1 of which was mortal. Invuln saved the mortal wound, but 1 of the other wounds went through, so he's now dead. Heavy bolter fire from the heavies took out another of the Chaos Space Marines, and then all of the fire in this area here was concentrated across towards the Berserkers, so there's only 5 left in that unit now. And finally las cannon shots from the heavies over in the centre just here took 6 wounds off of the Hellbrute, so he's down to 2. So pretty successful turn in terms of shooting. So that's it for Space Marines shooting. So it's now the charge phase. Charge phase is now complete, so the Chaplain, Librarian and this front 5-man squad of Space Marines have countercharged into the remaining 2 bikes. Obviously no Overwatch there because they're already in combat. Over in the centre here, the Reavers have charged in. The Cultists had quite a few, around 18 shots, only 1 hit, but it didn't wound, so they've made it in with no problems. And then the Dreadnought over here, again, I think 1 hit on Overwatch from 10 shots, but no wounds caused, so he's made it in as well. Remembering he has got Might of Heroes, which he's probably going to need. So that's it for charges. Fight phase coming up next. So at the end of the Space Marines fight phase, the 2 remaining warbikers have been dispatched by the chaplain on his own. So this group has consolidated towards the enemy, and then over in the middle here the Reavers have taken out the remaining cultists. Chose not to consolidate towards the enemy there, just to stay on the objective for an additional point. And then the Dreadnought taken out 2 more of the Berserkers. However, the Berserkers fought back and took off 3 wounds. So Dreadnought is now down to 2 wounds. Obviously we'll have Might of Heroes through the chaos fight phase, so hopefully we'll be able to finish that combat in a more favourable position, but we'll see. So that's it for the fight phase for Space Marines. Looking at morale, there isn't any morale at the moment, so that's the end of the turn. So a quick summary of points. So 1 point for this objective, 2 points for the active objective in the centre there, 1 point for this objective, and 1 further point for Slay the Warlord. So that's a total of 5 points for this turn for Space Marines. So Chaos turn 2 coming up. End of Chaos movement. Hellbrute and Juggernaut with Lord have moved forward on this flank to support the Berserkers. Nothing much going on in the middle there. However, the Desolate Ones have moved forwards to start challenging for this objective. The Chaos Terminators are now on the field. The Cultists and the Sorcerer have moved forward, still covering that objective. Berserkers have disembarked. Rhino has moved forwards. Hellbrute has moved up on the far right flank, and the remaining Bloodletters have advanced towards these Dreadnoughts. Finally, the only other unit that's now on the field is the Raptors. The Raptors have dropped in right over on the Space Marines back line. That does give them a line breaker. So that's it for movement for Chaos. Psychic phase coming up. End of the Khorne psychic phase. Sorcerer attempted Infernal Gaze on the Librarian, and it went off on an 8. The Librarian couldn't deny it, so after rolling 3 dice, rolled 3 4s, each one being a mortal wound. The Librarian tried to invuln those away, but failed that roll, so has taken 3 mortal wounds. Sorcerer then cast Prescience, which gives +1 to all hit rolls on the Berserker squad just there, so the card's there to remind me. That's it for Psychic. Shooting phase for Khorne is coming up next. So just a quick rewind, just going back to that mortal wounds situation over on the Librarian over the far side, having taken 3 mortal wounds. Of course, double checking, you can't save against mortal wounds. He failed the roll anyway, so there's no issue with that, but just need to make sure that is taken into account going forward. I think I might have made that mistake earlier on as well, so apologies for that, but I'll make sure I get that right next time. Okay, so shooting phase for Chaos. End of Chaos shooting. Pistols shot in melee over here, taking off a wound from the Dreadnought. Shot from the plasma pistol here did no damage in the centre. However, shots from the Raptors over the back here have taken out 1 intercessor and left 1 on 1 wound. The Chaos Marines have taken out 1 of the Reavers in the centre here. There's 2 of the standard Space Marines gone from this unit through fire from the the Desolate Ones, sorry, and the Terminators. And over here, a wound off the Rhino through shots from the Berserkers and these Chaos Cultists. So that's the end of shooting. Charge phase next. End of the Khorne charge phase. Hellbrute has joined this combat, as has the Lord on Juggernaut, so not looking too clever for the Dreadnought currently. Rest of the Chaos Marines have charged into the last two remaining Reavers. The Desolate ones, two taken out to Overwatch, the rest have charged into this unit of Space Marines. And the Bloodletters have made it into this Dreadnought. I've lost two to Overwatch. The Hellbrute has made it in to this combat without losing any wounds, and the Berserkers have multi-charged into the Chaplain and the Librarian. Again, no damage on Overwatch. And then finally these two Rhinos are going to go toe to toe, try and ram each other into oblivion. So we've still got prescience on the Berserkers over the back there, so make sure that we use that. The only other unit that we're going to charge or attempt to charge is the Raptors, which are here. Now it's quite an ask for these guys, and they're never going to make it in on that, so they'll just have to wait their turn. Fight phase coming up. End of the fight phase. Dreadnought is gone, didn't explode. The Reavers have dispatched one more Chaos Marine from the centre. One of the Space Marines, sorry, two of the Space Marines have gone from the centre here. Two Bloodletters left. 3 wounds off the Dreadnought. And then in the centre here, the Chaplain has gone, and 2 Space Marines gone from the combat with the Hellbrute. And 1 wound off the Rhino. So that's the end of the fight phase for Chaos. In terms of morale, we need to do morale for this unit, and they're fine. And morale for this unit, and they are fine. So that's the end of the Chaos turn. Quick tot up for points. I need to do a bit of measuring. Alright, so they're not in range of that objective. Pretty sure they've got the central one. So yeah, they have that one. And they also have this one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Okay, end of the Chaos turn. Space Marines turn 3 coming up next. Right, start of Space Marines turn 3, and we're playing for objective number 4, which is the active objective. That's this one here. All the others are worth 1 point. So let's get stuck into movement. Right, so at the beginning of the end, I should say, Space Marines movement, just an update on victory points. It's 7 each currently, so it's a tie at the moment. So going into movement, the Reavers have taken the opportunity to fall back out of this combat, leaving the Space Marines open for shooting. So Rhino has moved over the blockade there. Intercessors, Captain, Lieutenant and Psyker have moved forwards here. These intercessors with the Lieutenant, the Captain and the Chaplain have about faced to move towards the Raptors. In the centre, the Dreadnought has broken away from his comrade to support in dealing with the Berserker threat in the middle here. And then right over on the Space Marines left, this unit of 5 have just moved forwards to get into flamer range of the Berserkers. There's no way for the Space Marines to get on to objective 4 this turn, so they've sacrificed that in terms of points, just in the hope that they can get back in the mix in turn number 4. So that's it for movement. It's Psychic next. Right, so into the Psychic phase. The librarian on this flank tried to cast smite onto the berserkers. Rolled a 5, so got the power off, but the sorcerer managed to deny. So then tried to cast Psychic Scourge and failed to cast. Rolled a 5 instead of a 6. So no powers off on this side. And then right over here, the Primaris Librarian cast Smite on the Hellbrute and failed. And then did a command point reroll and got the power off. Did 3 mortal wounds. There were 2 wounds left. Rolled for the Crazed rule for the Hellbrute, but rolled a 1, so didn't get any retaliatory shots. So the Hellbrute is now gone. That's it for Psychic for Space Marines. Shooting phase is next. Right, so end of the shooting phase. There's literally the champion left in this squad. Combined fire from Stormbolter here and the bolt rifles and Bolt Storm Gauntlet in this group. Took out all 3 of the remaining Chaos Marines from that squad. The Raptors have been wiped out through combined fire from these guys here and snipers in the building through the window and the heavy bolter here. The las cannons in this group managed to take out 1 of the Terminators. What else have we got? Shooting from these guys did no damage on the Terminators. These guys moved forwards and with combined bolter fire from bolt rifles, bolt pistol, flamer and Stormbolter managed to actually only kill 1 of the berserkers who's gone from the back there, so they're still quite a threat. That's it for shooting. Just going to check stratagems and then we'll move on to the charge phase. Okay, so we're going to do charges first. There is a stratagem that we may use, but we're going to get the charges out of the way first of all. So first things first, Rhino is going to charge the champion with a bolt pistol, 2 shots, hitting on 3s, so 1 hit, strength 4, toughness 7, so 5 to wound, no wound. Charge roll, easily in, so he's in. And then we're going to see if we can charge in the intercessors as well. And that's 10 inches, so yeah, no problem at all. That's only about 6 inches. 1, 2, just going to wrap them around a little bit. 3, 4, 5, and then we want to get the lieutenant in as well if we can. Okay, that's not so great. Command point that one. 7. So yeah, that gets him in, so he's, just wrap him in there, that's fine. And then if we can get the Gravis captain in as well, 4 inches. Within an inch of a guy within an inch. Okay, and then the Psyker. Oh my word, so he's definitely not in. Okay, and then moving over this side, we're going to charge the Dreadnought into the Desolate Ones. He gets an 8, so he's easily in. Oh. And also these tacticals, they're going in as well. Again, 8, so easily in. So we'll just move those guys over. There we go. Okay, and then lastly, these guys are going to charge into the berserkers. Now the berserkers obviously are going to get Overwatch, so that's 18 shots. 10, 11, 14, 16.
18. 18 shots, need 6s. So that's 4 Overwatch hits. Strength 4, toughness 4. 3 wounds, sorry, 4 wounds. And 3 ups. Okay, so they're all saved. Charge of 4 inches. Yeah, easy peasy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the librarian will just charge in as well. Not quite enough space to... Oh, where is he? 2. There you go. Not quite enough space to leave an inch between these, so just accept that those are in combat. Right, so that's charge phase over. Now, fight phase is next, and what we're going to do is we're going to play this stratagem, which is Wisdom of the Ancients. So use this at the start of any phase. So we're using this at the start of the fight phase on a Space Marine Dreadnought. Until the end of the phase, you can re-roll all hit rolls of 1 for chapter units within 6 inches of that dreadnought. So that basically means all of these guys here are re-rolling their hit rolls of 1. So gives us a bit of bunts, and that is 1 command point. So 1 command point. Fight phase coming up. So end of the fight phase. Space Marines gone from here, all of them pretty much, just the librarian left. Stalemate between the 2 rhinos. The bloodletters are gone from here. The desolate ones are down to their last marine, so just the champion left. Champion's gone from the central area here. So yeah, so in terms of where we finished, no morale left, I don't think, for the Space Marines. I just do need to do one of these units because they've lost. Ooh, right, so we get to re-roll that anyway. And 4 plus 5 is 9. Sorry, 4 plus 2, because they've lost 2, is 6, so they're good. So yeah, that's the end of the fight phase. Morale is done in terms of points. So we've got the central one for 1 point, and this one for 1 point, and this one for 1 point. So 3 points for the Space Marine for their turn. Moving into Chaos turn 3 next. So end of Chaos movement. Chaos Lord on Juggernaut has moved to within easy charge range of the Psyker, and the remaining 3 Berserkers have moved to within bolt pistol range of this group here. The Terminators in the middle have moved forwards to look at countercharging into this group of Imperial forces. And finally, just over here, the Hellbrute has again moved into easy charge range of the Librarian. So Psychic for the Chaos side coming up. Let's see whether we can get some get some powers off. Okay, so Psychic phase over for turn 3 for Chaos. So the Sorcerer cast Smite on the Rhino and did 3 mortal wounds. That's now down to 3. Then cast Prescience again on the Berserker unit, just to give them that reroll bunts in the combat phase. So looking pretty ropey over this side for Space Marines. Looking like it might get a bit messy in the centre here, and then this guy's probably got a little bit to worry about as well. So moving into shooting for Chaos. End of the shooting phase. Auto guns and heavy stubber shot at this dreadnought. Hits but no wounds. Storm bolters on a couple of the dreadnoughts. Sorry, and the Terminators managed to take out 1 of the snipers from up in the building. No other damage caused, so that's pretty much it. plasma pistol here, shot into these intercessors, hit but no wounds. So that's the end of shooting. It's charge phase next. Charge phase, the Hellbrutes just slammed into the side of the Librarian there. The Terminators have made it in here. There was nothing there that could shoot because everything else is in combat. And then because he's got no ranged weapons, the Librarian is now under siege by the 3 remaining Berserkers and the Lord on Juggernaut. So the Juggernaut gets a bladed horn attack as well. So we're going to resolve that first, and then we'll move into the fight phase. So scratch that, having reread the rule. That takes place at the end. So after the model makes its close combat attacks, you can attack with its mount. So there's 3 attacks from the bladed horn. So we'll sort that out at the end. End of the Chaos fight phase. Primaris Librarian down to 2 wounds, but he's taken out 2 of the Berserkers and knocked a wound off the Chaos Lord. Over in the centre here, a couple more Space Marines gone, no damage dealt back to the Terminators. And then over this side, Librarian's done really well to hold off pretty much, well, all of the damage from both the Hellbrute and the Berserkers. Really rolled very well on saves. So yeah, lives to fight another day. So that's the end of the Chaos turn. The only thing we need to do is roll for morale for this Berserker champion. And he gets 4, he's lost 2, so that's 6, he's fine. So in terms of points, active marker there, they get 2 points for that one. And this one is actually stalemate, because there's, or is there? I need to measure that. I'm going to measure that and then we'll have a look in a minute. So just bear with me. No, so that is a Chaos win for that one, so they get the point for that as well. So that's 3 points for Chaos for this turn. That's the end of turn 3. So turn 4 for Space Marines coming up in a moment. So before we go into turn number 4 for the Stone Dogs side, just need to recap on some points errors that I made in terms of victory points. I missed in turn 2 that the Reavers actually held objective 2 for 1 additional point, and I also scored the Chaos side as holding 1 more objective than they actually had in the same turn. So for turn 2 it was 6-3, not 5-4 as I had it originally. So that's changed the scoring slightly, and it's left the Chaos side on 9 and the Space Marine side on 11 at the end of turn 3. So sorry for the mix up on that. So it's 11 to the Space Marines and 9 to Chaos at the end of turn 3. So turn 4 coming up next. Just going to roll for the objective for turn number 4, which is number 2. So that is that one there again. Okay, Space Marines movement coming up shortly. Right, so at the end of Space Marines movement phase for turn 4, nothing going on here. This Dreadnought has just sidestepped to get onto the objective for a point. The Rhino has moved around this building to get into charge range to pile into the back of the Terminators. Bit of redeployment here just to cover the active objective. Gravis Captain has moved back towards the Librarian just to give some support, and these intercessors, Aldous and the Chaplain, have also moved back in that direction to hopefully lend a hand and prevent that Primaris Librarian from getting splattered. So that's the end of the movement phase. It's going to be Psychic next. End of the psychic. Primaris Librarian over this side cast a smite and got D3 mortal wounds off of the Lord on Juggernaut, then cast Might of Heroes on the Gravis Captain, who is likely to be in combat fairly soon. And then all the way over on the other flank, Librarian this side cast Smite on the Berserkers. The Sorcerer failed to deny it, so 2 mortal wounds on the Berserkers, so takes them down to 2. Then cast, or tried to cast, Psychic Scourge, and rolled a 6, so 15 in total. The Sorcerer matched that with a 15, so that failed to go off. Then tried to cast Veil of Time, and that failed as well. So no successes apart from Smite over this side. So that's the end of Psychic. Moving into the shooting phase next. Right, end of a very quick shooting phase. So the only unit that has a viable target to shoot at was the Devastators, who shot over at the cultists and took out 3. 2 from a las cannon and 1 from the heavy bolter. 2 from 2 las cannons, I should say, 1 from the heavy bolter. This dreadnought, unfortunately, because I moved him onto the objective, can't actually see those units or that unit, so he can't fire. Everything else is locked in combat, apart from these guys over here who have no viable targets, and this guy here who has no viable targets. So that is the end of the shooting phase. It's now the charge phase. All charges now complete. All of these units got in with no difficulty whatsoever. So that melee is going to get nasty. Rhino made it in, no issues whatsoever as well. So had a little bit of support to these beleaguered units in the centre. So that's it for charges. Fight phase next. Alright, fight phase is over. Primaris Librarian took out the last of the Berserkers. This group of intercessors took the Lord on Juggernaut down to 1 wound, and then the Gravis Captain took off the last wound, so he's now gone. 1 more Terminator gone from the centre, so only 2 left there. The Librarian has been dispatched by the Hellbrute, so that's pretty much the end of the fight phase. So a quick end of turn point summary. So 1 point here. This one is contested, so no points scored there. These guys are now too far away from objective 1. So no points there, but 2 points for the active. So 3 points for Space Marines for this turn. Chaos turn coming up next. So at the end of Chaos turn number 4 movement, over in the centre here, the Terminators have stayed in combat. This Rhino has disengaged from the combat it was in with the Space Marine Rhino, which has left this now free in terms of shooting from the Chaos units just here. And finally, the Chaos side, we've played a stratagem. We've played Tide of Traitors for 2 command points. And basically what that means is we can take any unit of Chaos Cultists and remove it from the battlefield, and then set it up anywhere again, wholly within 6 inches of any edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from any enemy models. But it starts at its full starting strength. Now I've put them here, but I think they're more than 6 inches away from the table edge. So, not by much though. So I just need to move the front 3 back so that they're behind that centre rank. So what I'll do is move those back, and then just push these back. So that brings them to the 6-inch limit, like so. Okay, so 2 command points spent, and that's the end of Chaos movement. And at the end of the Chaos psychic phase, the Sorcerer has cast Smite on the Rhino and taken off another 2 wounds, so down to its last wound, and then also cast Prescience again on the Berserkers. Prescience is the one where you can add 1 to all hit rolls, so that will come in handy. Bearing in mind this is on its last wound, so it's Chaos shooting next. Well, after the most ineffective Chaos shooting phase ever, the Sorcerer's out of range. Stormbolter on the Rhino failed to do any damage here, neither did the bolters on bolt pistols, sorry, on the Berserkers. Flamer did no damage. Got to come back to the multi-melter, which I'll do in a moment. These guys are in combat, so couldn't shoot, and then these guys, 8 auto gunshots, managed to take out the Intercessor that was on 1 wound, but the heavy stubber did no damage. So just going to go back over to that multi-melter on. So the multi-melter is heavy 1, didn't move, so hitting on a 3. And that's a miss anyway. Command point, reroll that. Awesomeness. Okay, so that's the end of Chaos shooting. Okay, charge phase is over. Hellbrute charged in first. 4 shots from the Stormbolter, failed to do any damage. So successful charge, that left the Berserkers free to charge in also. Remembering they've got Prescience on their profile for the rest of this turn. These guys over here are too far away from anything to do anything. They could potentially charge. Yeah, if they get a 10, they can charge into the captain, into Aldous. So let's give that a go, looking for a 10. No. It's a new phase, command point reroll. Hey, right. Okay then, so let's just remove a command point and then we'll move those guys in. Of course, not forgetting the Overwatch, so Stormbolter, 24 inches, so it's going to be rapid fire. Hitting on 3s. Wounding on strength 4, toughness 3, wounding on 2s, and 6 up save. Not saved, so at least 1 cultist is gone. And then these guys need to move in to approximately there. Okay, that'll do for now. Okay, that's the end of the charge phase. So fight phase coming up next. So end of the fight phase, and the Dreadnought has gone from here. Fell to the Hellbrute. The Berserkers didn't even get a look in. And then Terminator gone from the centre. Took 1 wound off the Space Marine Sergeant before he died. But the Dreadnought took him out. And then over here, after a heroic intervention by the lieutenant, the last two cultists that were left after the captain and the lieutenant did their damage actually fell to a failed morale test, so have fled the field. So that basically means that that Chaos in their turn 4 score 1 victory point for objective 4, and that's it. They would have scored this one if they'd have managed to pass their morale test, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So 1 point for Chaos, and that's the end of turn 4. Right, so it's turn number 5 for Space Marines, just about to begin. Now, just want a quick overview of what's going on the table at the moment. After 4 turns, it's 14 victory points to the Space Marines and 10 to the Chaos side. The Khorne side have 1 Terminator left, just there. 4 Berserkers and a Hellbrute just here. A Rhino and a Sorcerer. Now, in terms of Space Marines, what we're currently sitting on is this objective, this objective, this objective, and this objective. That's a total of 4 without the active objective being rolled for. So if we roll for the active objective, that gives us number 2. Number 2 is that one there, so that's 2 points. So that's actually 5 points potentially for Space Marines for this turn as a minimum, which puts them on 19. That means that the Chaos side would have to achieve 9 victory points to even draw level, which based on model count is just not going to happen. So at the end of turn 4, based on that, I'm declaring a Stone Dogs victory. Obviously there's been a couple of rules errors that might have turned the tide a little bit, but I don't think the Khorne side would have pulled back those 4, maybe 1, possibly 2, but certainly not 4 victory points. So Stone Dogs victory for this one. So it's 1-0 in the Flames of Terror campaign. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.